Hi, everyone. This is Tiffany with the Private Room, and tonight we have our monthly community piece. And I'm really excited about this interview tonight because I'm a mom, and we have a very um, beautiful story. Well, not a beautiful story, a very tragic story. Let me say that. It's beautiful because of the advocacy that she's doing, but it's a very tragic story because it could happen to any of us. And so we have with us tonight Toia Potts. She is now an advocate and working with Emancipation, North Carolina. And Toia had her children taken away from her because of false allegations by DSS. And so I'm really excited to be able to talk to her. I've been following her story for a little bit over a year now, and just really am glad that she is willing to share her story with us. And so I want to go ahead and jump right in since we're a couple minutes behind and introduce Miss Toia Potts to everybody. So hello, Miss Toia. How are you doing?
Hey y'all, I'm doing fine. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I wanted to reach out to you and have you on because I have been following your story for a while. And I will be very honest as a social worker, I'm a social worker myself and now a therapist. And looking at your story and hearing your story, I have to say I wasn't surprised. However, I was surprised that you still do not have your children back with you because you still do not have them back with you, right?
I don't.
No. And with all of the publicity that is behind you and all of the things that you are doing in the community to bring awareness to the system and how the DSS system has just ruthlessly taken your children away from you, that they still have not done anything to correct their actions. So can you give us, kind of from day one, when and what happened, like what the scenario was that started this story for you and for your children?
So basically my middle baby he was born 3 months early. So I was actually visiting North Carolina. My mom was staying up here at the time, and she was sick, and so I'm the only child. So I was visiting North Carolina and went into active labor 3 months early. So I ended up having him at Duke Hospital, totally unexpected. So he came. Y'all still there?
Yep, we're here.
Okay, okay. I don't know. So basically, yeah, had him early. He came home after 3 months. I took him to the NICU. I took him to the ER maybe about 3 weeks in because he was oversleeping, wasn't really eating that much. And so I took him to the NICU, to the ER, and they were like, yeah, your child is very lethargic. And they did like all these x-rays and tests, and they were like, he has broken bones, multiple fractures that are in different healing phases. So at this point, I'm like, well, he just came home, like he hasn't even been home a full month. So basically the hospital deemed it as non-accidental trauma, and that's how my case got submitted to social services. So yeah, it was basically the hospital who mandatory reported me. They called them like mandatory reporters instead of supporters. They basically reported that it had to be non-accidental trauma, and that's how all of this started.
So you're in the hospital and your son is about a month old now, right? When this happened?
He was about 3 months.
Okay, he was about 3 months. And you are there for a hospital visit, and they say he has broken bones, so forth and so on. And as a social worker and as a therapist, I understand that yes, they do have the mandatory duty to report anything like that. So what is the reason why, let me ask this question. Did he have broken bones? Let me ask that question.
He did, but they were, like I said, they were in multiple healing phases, and he had only been home for 3 weeks. Like he hadn't even been home a full month. He had been with the hospital longer than he had been home with me. So when I got, of course, I'm like, I know I didn't hurt my child. So I start going asking, like, I need to see his medical records. I need to see, like, I need to see.
Mhm.
So I of course it took me a long time to get his records, but in his records it shows that he did have osteopenia, which is weak bone marrow. So of course I know I didn't hurt my child. So I'm like, there has to be some underlying thing that y'all are not saying. But of course, they're just like, no, we're ruling it as non-accidental trauma, and that's why social service entered my life. And we let them check out. Of course, I had another child at the time who was 2. We let them do like analysis of him. You know, everything came back fine, and it was just I almost cursed right there. It was just chaos from then on. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he has this condition, and so they didn't take into consideration that there was a medical diagnosis that might have caused him to have these injuries or so-called injuries.
No, they didn't. They wouldn't take into account anything that was just blamed on me as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they wouldn't listen to like family. They wouldn't listen to anyone. You know, of course, I had like character references. My family, who's like, you know, she's a great mom. Like this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it was a lot. Like, you know, I've never been in that type of situation before. So, you know, I thought, you know, I'm a regular parent just taking my child to the ER because I noticed something is wrong. And then turns out it's like all of this stuff and they're just blaming me, you know? So it was a very traumatic experience.
Yeah. So how long has it been since you have seen the kids?
So I haven't seen my baby since November 1st of 2018. And I haven't seen my oldest since September 19th of 2019.
Mm.
It's been a long time, a
Wow.
very long time.
Wow. So they take your children. Do they take the youngest right then? Is that in the hospital?
So no, they didn't take them right then. They actually, so my children weren't like with another placement. They were originally with my mom. But my mom was sick, so she couldn't continue to be the placement. And instead of DSS, instead of them like doing the work to actually put my children with family, because I had multiple family members. I had a set of godparents, my grandparents, my dad, my aunt, their paternal grandparents. All of them were like, you know, whatever we need to do to get the children, we will be there. Like my grandparents literally drove up here from Georgia that day, ready to take them. And instead of, you know, them doing the work to put them in another placement with another family member, they didn't. They deemed it as emergency dependency and put them into a foster placement. And so they stayed in that foster placement from January 5th of 2018 on.
Okay. So I guess for me, when I'm listening to this, I'm thinking your child has a condition that could cause that could cause him to, you know, have broken bones or something like that. And they didn't take that in consideration. They take the children and they put them in foster care. So did they not give your family or the father or somebody the opportunity to take the kids like they usually do to go to family?
Exactly. So, like I said, my children, they first did go with my mom, but once my mom was like, you know, I can't do this placement anymore. Like I said, instead of my social worker, because she had the information, she had the social security number, she had that stuff to actually do the work, to do the background checks, to, you know, do the paperwork. It's called an ICPC. It's like a out of state like type of process that has to happen. But no, they just did what was easiest for them, which was to put my children into the system. and kept them in that placement. And by the time that they did decide to do ICPC paperwork, I was sitting in jail, so I didn't have access to be able to, say like get this paperwork done. And the end result was just that the judge would not put my children with my family because she said that my children had already been in the placement for so long. But that wasn't my fault. They were in the placement for so long because of the courts, because of the of the courts, because of the turnovers of social workers, So that wasn't my fault.
Right. Right. Now, we didn't even talk about that. When did you get locked up, and what was the reason for you getting locked up?
So I had when my children were put into the foster placement in January of 2018. So I was having visits with my children that whole year of 2018. I had a detective, so the reports get turned over to the police. I had a Black detective on my case, and he was just like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. He was like, Duke keeps giving us all of these like different dates which aren't like aligning as far as like his healing and when the progression of the broken bones. And somehow my case got turned over to a white detective. And so he literally got on the case and he was like, it was just like it was over at that point. He got on the case like October, I believe. And I think the statute is like you have to press charges against people like within a year. Mind you, I was already cooperating, doing whatever DSS told me to do. I'm like, I'm just trying to get my kids back. He filed charges. He filed charges at the end of October. Literally, I was just driving around one day. My attorney called. She was like, yeah, this detective is really trying to press charges. But we're going to give you time to like turn in yourself. I had never been arrested, never been to jail, didn't even know like what to do or anything. But he had already put out a warrant. I got pulled over. I guess because he put out an alert for my car, and I got arrested. And I had charges for felony child abuse, felony child negligence, on a $250,000 bond. And now I never even been to jail. I don't have a record. Like I'm a college graduate. I'm a normal, like I'm just a regular person, But they gave me a $250,000 bond. And so I sat in Durham County Jail for 8 months. And that's without a trial, without anything. And so during that time, they tried to get me to plead. They tried to get me to plead out. They tried to like do all this stuff like, well, you should just say that that your child's father did such and such. And I'm like, well, I've never hurt my child, nor have I seen anybody hurt him. So like I don't get what it is that you want me to do. The biggest thing that got me through that was my family. Because I had the support of my papa. And every time I would talk to him, he would just be like, just do not plead to anything. Like, just stay strong. Just do not plead to anything. Because, that's the culture. Like, people are really sitting inside and they'll literally take a plea for something that they did not do just so they could get on with the process. Or they're scared to take it to trial because it's like this thing of, oh, you're going to get way more time if you try to fight, even if you know you're innocent. Can you have 1 second? I'm sorry.
Sure. Wow. So I'm going to put an article in the comments for those that are watching, and we have several people that are watching. And this article was back in February, and it covers a lot of the story and kind of at that time what was going on. I'm posting the story from WRAL Toia, the Like They Threw My Whole Family Away. Durham mom questions why county won't let her kids stay with family in Georgia. So that's the article that I was reading, and I just put up for people to go and read. Kashonda, I saw your responses. Did you have some questions for Toia? I saw your face. I was looking at your face.
You said 18 and 19, 2018 and 19. Like, how do you cope on the daily?
Everybody asks me that, and I feel like a lot of it is just spiritual, I would say. It took me a long time to get here, like a long time. I had to just really do some digging as far as like, because I would always ask myself, like, why is this happening to me? Like I'm a great mom. There's no reason why I should be living every day without my kids. And now I just have a better understanding of it as far as like it's part of like my purpose and what I'm put here to do. Because that's the only way that it like logically makes sense. Like I had to go through it so that I could advocate for others, so I could know what the experience is like, so that I could be able to tell my story, so that I could be able to advocate for other families, so I could be able to, be on panels and talk about, abolitionists and reforms, like, so I look at it, I definitely have a different type of lens of how I look at it. And it's definitely not easy. Of course, I have days where I'm just like, I don't want to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, why did it have to be me to get picked to do this? But I just keep pushing, knowing that like someday my children are going to find me. And for one, they're going to be able to look at everything that I've done and see that like I never stopped fighting, like at any point. It don't matter. Like the court said no, okay, well, child, I'm still right here. I'm still doing, still fighting, still leaving, doing stuff like this. I often say like it's like my paper trail. You know what I'm saying? So like they'll be able to find me. They'll be able to go online, whatever they're gonna search and look it up and see. So the everyday, no day is the same. But like I said, it's just it takes a lot of mental fortitude to like be in a space like this. And I just say that like every day is just a day. But I just keep pushing forward. I keep my faith in knowing that like I know the mom that I am. And I just know that like my children are going to find me one day. And I just got to keep doing the work and the purpose of what I was put here to do.
I something that you said really touched me, because it's something that I actually just said about a week or so ago to a friend of mine, who basically they said that they were going to accept what the court was offering them, even though they're innocent. And I know that they're innocent. Like I know for a fact that they're innocent, but they are going to accept that they have to go through this program and so forth and so on, because they're just over the whole thing that they've been put through. And so that really hit when you said that, because I was just having the same conversation last week with someone. And so you're sitting in jail. Tell us how that was for you. How was that, sitting in jail, knowing that you've been accused of abusing your own children, and you know that you did not do it? How was that for you?
That part, like I said, was really, that's like a whole nother topic. It was so hard. Like being in jail, like you're confined for one. We only came out like maybe 5 hours a day or 4 hours and 30 minutes a day. And if I didn't have the support of my family, I don't know what I would do. And the majority of people on the inside, they don't have the support. So it's like, I don't know what I would have done without my family. Like my papa definitely made sure that, he put commissary on my books. It was another time, it was another space of where I'm trying to tell you, just really leaning on my faith, that allowed me to even get through, because the system is definitely stacked against you. Like it's meant, like having a DSS case and then having a criminal case also, like those two in tandem, it's just like so much to carry. Not being able to see my children, not being able to have my visits, while also fighting a criminal case is like crazy. Yeah. But yeah, it took a lot of strength. I had days in there where I was just like, I would have never thought I would have sat there for 8 months, like at all, like going in. You could have never even told me, like before even going to jail, that I could have survived like being in jail. Like what? I had never been in jail a day in my life. I literally was driving, got pulled over, and literally was put into jail that day. When I got out, I got out on pretrial release. I got out on pretrial release. There was a lady who would come in and do like volunteer work, and she signed off on my pretrial release to let me come and stay in her home because she knew that I was innocent. She signed off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get out because I didn't have an address. I lost my apartment. I lost everything that I ever owned. My jobs, my cars. I literally got out and had the clothes I got locked up in, my phone that of course didn't work, and an expired ID. Like it was it was a lot.
Yeah. I can't, as a mom, I can't imagine sitting in jail for abusing my children knowing that I didn't do it, and then sitting in there as long as 8 months. That's a long time. I can't even imagine trying to be there for a week. And definitely not 8 months. Knowing that I'm innocent. And so I was reading the article that I shared, the first article, and it said that Potts and her attorney accept that she will not be able to regain custody of her children. Do you believe that? Do you feel like you're not going to get your children back?
So the custody part, I can understand the language of that because I've been dealing with the courts for so long. The custody part is because the Judge Reinhardt actually decided to terminate my rights.
Goodness.
So my rights were terminated. Was it last year? What's this? 2024? Either 2022 or 2023. But I did appeal it in the North Carolina Supreme Court of Appeals. Basically, so no one's case has gotten called to do like an oral argument in that court in like over like I think like 15 years or so. And so my case got chosen to be called to do oral argument, and my attorney did an amazing job. I always said if I had Elizabeth prior to like early on in my case, I could have probably had a chance of getting my children back. But yeah, we took it to the Supreme Court of Appeals. And basically, the panel of judges basically said they didn't believe that I partook in any abuse or condoned any abuse, yet they still terminated my rights. Like it doesn't even make like logical sense. But they had to terminate my rights in order for my children to even be adopted out. So I'm pretty sure like that's the only reason why my rights were terminated, because I was like one in maybe, I think, don't quote me on this, like 32 or 36 parents that year to have their rights terminated. And only one of the other parents out of that bunch were white. So it's like, it's all systematic is what it is.
So was Judge Reinhardt, is that Miss Shamika Reinhardt? Judge Shamika Reinhardt?
Yes.
She's the one that initially took the kids from you, or she's the one that did the...
No, she was on my case the entire time. The whole entire time.
Wow. And she's Black.
And she is Black. That's very accurate.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that one. When I had my termination of parental rights, like that trial, she actually was like boohoo crying, like at the end of it, while she's telling me she had to terminate my rights. And I'm like, I don't even understand this. Like, why are you crying? Like, you have the control here. But she didn't use her control. She just, whatever DSS said, she just went with that. The thing that they kept saying, they kept trying to say was, you're not giving us like a reason. Like, you're not, I really don't. I'm just like, I will never understand why. Because I always say, even if you didn't want to give my kids back to me, you could have gave them to my family, and you didn't even. So it's just like, what is happening here?
Right. So now, okay, so that makes sense. So that's the reason why you are feeling as if you're not, well, you won't have custody of them because they terminated your rights.
They terminated my rights. And
so the reason why they terminated your rights is because even though it sounds like there was evidence that you didn't abuse them.
Exactly. So on top of this, if y'all read into my story, on top of this, so my children's dad got out of jail maybe like 2 months after I did. Got out of jail and sent an email to a social worker on a random day. And it's just like, blame me. He said that he accidentally dropped Kimani. And so he said that he wanted to just take all of the blame. So the DA gave him, she charged him with, gave him probation for child negligence and took off the child abuse. So the DA sends my, attorney a letter and it's like, wishing me well, like go tell her to go and get her kids back, because now at this time my charges are dropped. So I don't have any charges. So now the court is saying, okay, they're looking for somebody to put this on. So there's the person that is saying that put it on him, and instead of the court saying, okay, instead of Judge Reinhardt saying, okay, her charges in Supreme Court, criminal court now are dismissed, which means I'm an innocent person, right? So you would think I would take that then to A&D court, family court, to her, and for her to just give me my kids back. She did not give me my kids back. She was just like, no, the kids have been in the placement this long. We feel like that they're fine in their placement, and that's just that.
Wow.
And still chose to terminate my rights after this.
Wow. So why did your children's father do that? And was he doing that to hoping that would get your children back? Was that the rationale, or did he really?
That's what I'm assuming, because I can't say, like I said, I've never seen anyone hurt my children, nor have I ever hurt my children. And I always told them, 1,000 times, do you think I would be sitting here if I ever seen somebody hurt my children? I said, y'all would have been arresting me. It wouldn't even be like, we wouldn't even be here right now. Like, that doesn't even make logical sense, Right. And so that's just how it unfolded. But you would think that like I would have been able to go into family court with separation from him, not even in a relationship anymore or anything, and would have been able to get my kids back. And she did not do that. And then I often, you try to make it make sense a little bit, but I'm like, even if you didn't want to put my children with me, you still would not allow them to go to another placement, which just doesn't make sense.
With your family, because that's usually when a child is taken out of the biological family home, the first place they look usually is the family, and they didn't even go that route at all.
Yeah, like my family was here in court. They showed up every time. So it's like you seen the support, but you still chose to not place my children. It didn't make sense at all.
Gray, as a man listening to this, and I'm watching your face too. As a man listening to this, what questions do you have?
I just really would like to better understand it just doesn't make sense to me that they would take it upon themselves to exercise those rights. Like, why do you have that right? I mean, you mentioned that you mentioned that the child had an ailment with the bone density. That's evidence to the contrary that you did something to them. Why is that not being examined? You're right. It makes no logical sense. It makes no logical sense.
Yeah.
So do you know where your kids are?
In the beginning, when I would have visits, this is another really strange thing. So in the beginning, when my children were initially placed, and we had like the first meeting, where you have where it's like I think it's called a child and family team meeting. And so, we met them for the first time, and it was almost like, it wasn't almost like, they literally said they didn't know that my children had active parents. So it's like they came into the situation thinking that like they were automatically going to be able to adopt my children. I had very small children at the time. So, I had a 2-year-old and at that time, a 3-month-old. So, to someone who's looking to adopt, that's like perfect age,
It is.
So, yeah, so I know who they're with. Yeah.
And so do you know if that family has officially adopted them?
So I only know this because I just assume that this is the case. Because we went to court to do something. I can't remember what we went to court to do at this time, but there was like something that was sealed that we could not look at. Like the judge wouldn't allow us to look at it. And I'm just like, well, what is happening? You know, like what is going on? And so that's where my case like literally stopped. And so, you know, here in North Carolina, adoptions are closed here. So
Wow.
it's just like they can take your children and that's just that. And another thing I think people don't really understand, with termination of your parental rights, that's like the extreme. Like,
Yes.
like I didn't deserve to have my rights terminated. Like no one deserves to have their rights terminated, but it's just like based on what? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if y'all even know that like you can have your rights terminated if you don't pay the child support. There's like I think like 4 things on the list of the reasons of why you can have your rights terminated. But it's like what that means is that I cannot have contact with my children. Like I can't like have contact. I can't talk to them. I can't see them. I can't have like my custody. My rights were literally like stripped away. And what we call
Is
it
it possible to have them restored?
So that has never been done in the state of North Carolina. So it's never been done. It's never been done here. So there's nothing that like my attorney can even look over to see like, well, how do I go about, you know? Sometimes, it's basically like giving me, we call it like the civil death penalty. So it's basically like my child is, when this happened, he was 6. So that's like you just gave me a 12-year sentence, basically, like until he turns 18. That's crazy. You know, like what is that? You know? So
Wow.
How old is your son?
So my oldest is 8 and my baby son is 7.
So then how long this has been going on for 2 years?
No, it's been going on for 2018.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
2018, and you have not seen them since 2018 and 2019. I'm at a loss for words because I'm thinking as a mother and hearing your story and been following your story for a while. It's like all of this stuff is out, and no one is the Durham County Mayor, DA, courts, Miss Shamika Reinhart, Superior Court Judge. Nobody is doing anything to correct what's been done to you all. Have y'all considered doing a lawsuit?
So right now, there isn't like a lawsuit like with me personally, but my papa does have a lawsuit standing because it's so much corruption, y'all. So basically, so you know when the petition goes in for adoption, right? Like my papa put in a petition to adopt, the foster parents put in a petition to adopt. So they held my papa's petition on purpose, and my attorney had it on recording of the clerk literally saying that the social worker told me to withhold this petition, which is illegal. You can't, like, they literally just like kept my papa's petition from entering into court so that the foster family's petition could go through. And so my papa does have a lawsuit right now for that reason, specifically for that reason, because they basically overlooked him as a placement.
Right. And that so he's trying to sue for that. And so for you, what are you doing right now? And we'll talk about emancipation in a moment. But what are you doing right now as respects to your children? I know with your work that you're doing in the community that you haven't given up on the advocacy side, but as a mom and as your children, you know, basically being stolen away from you, have you, and I hate to ask this question, but have you given up on getting them? because your rights have been, or what are you doing right now to try to?
So I don't think, I will never say that I gave up, because there's certain things, that obstacles, I would say, that have been put in my way to literally destroy me. Like, I feel as though like most people probably would have never have even gotten this far. Like, you're really supposed to go insane. I'm pretty sure. Like, it's supposed to push you to insanity. Like being a parent and being like literally ripped away from the babies that you birthed, that you carried, that you created, that like you nurtured, and then with the system attacking you as a mom, saying, no, you can't get your kids back, like, let's take away your rights, like let's make sure you never have contact with your kids. And like I said, I feel like doing the advocacy and doing things like this is my fight for my children. It's how I, make sure that like I keep the story, like alive, like they're not going to be able to, the court will never be able to say, or my children will never be able to look back and be like, no, my mom just stopped doing whatever, like, no, I didn't.
Right.
I'm going to do whatever it is that I can do. But as far as like things being able to be done in the court, my attorney and I haven't like I guess looked into anything else right now because of the lawsuit, like with my papa. And I don't already have overwhelmed her enough.
Right.
And she's done so much for me. She literally fought for my children as if they were her own. But no, I'm just going to keep going, and whatever comes out of it, whether I see my kids tomorrow or if I have to wait until they're 18, I still know that like they're going to look for me at some point.
Yeah. So I know that they took your youngest because of the so-called abuse, even though he had a condition. And so when they came for the second one, what was the reason for that? Because he didn't have any broken bones. There was no evidence of him being abused. So what was the reason for taking the second child?
They just said it had to be an injurious environment. And so that's why they took him as well. Even though there was nothing wrong with him.
Right. Wow.
How many kids do you have in total?
I have 3. So this is Journey, y'all.
Yeah.
Hi, Journey.
I just had Journey in March.
That is a fitting name.
Yes.
Name.
Yes.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So tell us how you got connected with Emancipation, North Carolina, and tell us what that is for those that don't know.
So it's actually Emancipate, North Carolina. So I got with Emancipate. When I got out of jail, I literally was like, I'm going to tell every single body about the conditions of the jail, for one, what that experience was like, and that these people literally just sat me in jail to keep me even longer away from my children. So I started just reaching out to organizations, local community organizations, just sharing my story. And I was a part of, I think it's called a religious coalition of a nonviolent Durham. And in that is where I met a lady named Leah, who then introduced me to Elizabeth. And Elizabeth ended up taking my case, but she actually worked for Emancipate at the time. And so I was in community, I was being an advocate for those on the inside, doing a lot of like work around the conditions of the jail, women's pod in Durham County, doing some work just around like commissary, not having like tampons, things on the commissary that were overly priced, like you have to buy antibacterial soap. Like, I don't think people, like, it's a lot of things that happens in jail, but doing some advocacy around that. And then of course I was telling my story. There was nobody in the county, doing this type of work, like family court, like really focusing on that court. So I started to bring attention to the court, like, this is like, y'all come look, because this is really happening in this courtroom. And people were shocked. Like, people were like, they're just taking people kids. Yes, she is in here just taking people kids, y'all, like just doing whatever she want to do. And just siding with DSS however they feel. And so wait, what was the initial question?
I was asking how you got connected to Emancipate.
Oh, yeah. So that's how I got connected through Emancipate through Elizabeth. So I was already doing the groundwork. And then in 2021, I think, or 2022, Elizabeth was like, you should come on board with Emancipate and start doing this sector of work, really focusing on the family regulation system, so that we can have some push behind this type of movement of focusing on A&D court. So
yes. So
do you think that this judge is, I'm sorry, do you think this judge is on the take, like she getting kickbacks?
I don't know what she's doing, but it has to be something, because like I told y'all, it really did not logically make any sense. And y'all, this is system, and it's a money thing. Like, if children are not in the system, then there's no system. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
right. But Toia, what are her stats specifically? This judge, what are her stats? How many kids per year is she taking away from their parents?
All I can say is that she was she had been the what am I trying to say? The Andy is not just her, but I think it's her and Walker. But she didn't choose to leave that. She didn't leave that courtroom until after my case, when everything started blowing up, because I started bringing so much attention and light to that court. Durham is the slowest county in North Carolina to reunify children, like, all together. On average, children stay in custody for about a median of I think 628 days, which is ridiculous. Like, that is crazy. My children alone were in the system for over 1,200 days. They were in the system for over 5 years. Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? And so I started to put a lot of spotlight on that courtroom, and that's when she finally went on to Superior Court. But at the end of the day, I always say this: I am still going to campaign against her. Like, I don't care what it is that she's doing. I'm always going to speak my truth and tell my story, because that actually happened to me, and she had the biggest input. You know what I'm saying? Like, we seen these numbers while she was on the bench. And just because she moved court does not mean that this is gonna all go away. Like, people are usually so shocked when I say, yes, my judge was Reinhardt. Like, that was my judge.
Wow. So I'm posting some articles about Judge Reinhardt, because I'm thinking of the fact that she is a woman, she's a Black woman, and it's like, no matter what DSS might have said, if you look at all the facts, how can you come to this conclusion all the way to the max of terminating someone's rights? And so now these children, we're assuming, have been adopted. And it makes sense when you said that, because I know it's at one point I was looking to adopt. And so I know that if you have a newborn child, especially in foster care, and you have parents that are looking to adopt, one of the things that the county will say, will become a foster care parent first, with the hopes of adopting that child from foster care. Yeah, so I've heard it before, and you've experienced it, and so now your infant is the perfect opportunity for a couple that is looking to adopt. And then they got a bonus of a sibling. So I don't know. What can the community do? What can the community do? We're going to start with you. What can the community do to help you? Because I don't feel like it's lost. you were falsely accused, and there's proof that you were falsely accused. So what can we do for you, Toia, to help you and to stand behind you? What can the community do to help you when it comes to you and your children specifically?
I feel like helping me, I mean, the space that I'm in right now, I feel like helping me is in turn helping others. And I think like really acknowledging like what the system really is. And I think like educating yourselves about what the system is, and then holding elected officials accountable. I think one of the things that we're trying to focus on now is like the county commissioners who hold the power over the Department of Social Services. And then also the judges who are in the courtrooms right now. The A&D court did get a new Judge Montgomery Blinn. And with having like the eyes on that courtroom, it's kind of like they know they just can't get away with anything. They still are doing whatever, but it's like they know that like they have those eyes, you know, they know that they, you know, a lot of times they try to use what am I trying to say? The confidentiality thing, like, oh, these are children, so you know, information is confidential, but they literally use that so that they can keep the doors closed to what's really happening in the courtrooms. I would just say, just really advocating for families and really focusing on like who we put in these positions. Because like I said, a lot of people was really shocked when they found out that that was my judge. And like, this is the person that y'all voted in. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, she's the one who like literally ruined my life. Like I will never, like it's things that like I can never get back. You know what I'm saying? Like I can never get like moments back that I missed of my children's lives, you know? So yeah.
I think all of us are like speechless right now, because I'm thinking of myself as a mom, and then I'm looking at you as a young mom, and I'm just like, this is like the ultimate slap in the face, stab in the back, you know, like this is the ultimate for a mom to lose her children for the wrong reasons.
Is, y'all. Like I'm trying to tell you, it's really meant to make you go insane.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Like that's what it's meant to do.
And I'm sure the system expects for a mom or somebody that might not have the means and might not have the support to give up, but you haven't given up. And so I think that's what's making me so perplexed at the fact that you have so much attention around this story, and nobody has stepped forward to say, Toia, we are sorry. We made a mistake. Nothing. No one has done anything to try to.
It's like the audacity, right? Like,
yeah, like
unmitigated goal. How do you have the nerve to to try to get away with that? That's crazy. Like the more I'm listening to it, I'm just like nobody has stepped up and said, "Hey, why is this okay?" Like somebody in the local government, somebody in the legislature. If this is getting as much attention as it appears to be getting, why has no one stepped up and said, "Hey guys, that's not okay."
Right.
It's really simple.
Selling kids is big business.
Selling kids, that's why I asked if it was. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Like,
I didn't want to say it, and I've been sitting over here just.
Yeah, it is. I'm so glad, because it's the legal kidnapping.
And that's what I was getting to. Like, adoption is a big thing. And finding and having children in the system that are taken at birth or infancy or under 3, those are the prime children that people want to adopt and will pay big money to get children under 3 years old, especially an infant.
Exactly. My papa always referenced this to he said it's modern day slavery. It's just a new way to, you know, tear families apart. He always says, he's like, my papa is 84. So my children have great grandparents now. They have great grandparents. And so he always says, like, you know, like, how are they going to know, like, where they come from? How are they going to know, like, their roots? Like, we have a big family. Like, they don't even know that they have a sister right now. Like, how are they going to know any of this? And he always says, like, those are my roots. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's his lineage of, you know, like, young boys, you know, like, how are you going to remove them, put them into a different family so they can grow up in a different place? He said this is the same thing that was happening back in his day. He says it all the time. Like, it's just legal. They just split it into what we see now, like the child welfare system. So it's crazy, y'all. Like, majority of the cases, I think like 90% of the cases in North Carolina are neglect cases here, which is usually based off of poverty, really. You know, like, a child came to school with, you know, clothes that were too small, or a child didn't have a lunch today, or, you know, a mom left the oldest with the youngest because she had to go to work and didn't have a babysitter. You know, like, all of these things, and it's targeted towards us.
Regular shit, though.
Yes, like, it's targeted.
It's regular shit. I mean, my mother did it when I was growing up.
And people think,
babysitter, you know, who kept me was 14 years old. Did not need to be keeping me.
So right now, where does everything stand? I know that you unfortunately have lost your rights. We're assuming that they have been adopted. It's a closed adoption, of course, because that's North Carolina. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say, because I'm just like, this is so much. How are you taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally on a daily basis?
Like I said earlier, y'all, it's really my faith. I spend a lot of time in prayer and in meditation. And like I said earlier, it took me a long time to get here. Like, I've been dealing with this for over 5 years now. Also having Journey 2, I feel as though that kind of like brought it back like full circle. It's kind of like a way I have to look at it in my mind of like, okay, something beautiful did come out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do not see my other kids every day, but at least I can wake up to her and she's like smiling like every morning, you know, like, but it's unfortunate that like I had to get myself here. You know what I'm saying? Like, the system didn't help me. You know, you think like, okay, people think like, oh, I'm gonna call Child Protective Services, you know, on these people because they're going to help them. And that's not what they do. Like, they don't give you the resources. They don't help you find housing. They're not going to come in and say, oh, well, let's go to the food pantry with you and put some food in your refrigerator. You know, like, they don't do that. They're going to remove the child and then put them into another placement and then give the resources to that placement. Instead of, you know, putting the resources into the family that you're trying to take the child away from. It's a very backwards system. It does not make any sense at all. Like, on my case plan, when I realized like, okay, the guardian ad litem suggested some things that I had to do in order to get my kids back. She wrote like a list. I'm like, okay, I'm about to go do all of this. I literally completed everything in the first 3 months. I found all of the resources myself. When it did the parenting class, when it did the parental capacity assessment, I said, y'all can drug screen me whenever you want, whatever it is that you want me to do, you know, cooperated. And yet they did not give me my kids back. So you cannot tell me that the system works. You know, you can't, because it doesn't. And I'm not the only one, you know, saying this.
Yeah. So you mentioned some statistics earlier about that there were a number of families. You gave a specific number that whose parental rights were taken away. Can you tell me that number again? During the same,
I think it was 1 in like 32. It's either between 32 and 38 whose parental rights were terminated that year. In 1 year. In 1 year. And so in that year, and only one was white. That was the other thing about it.
Yes. So, wow. That's a lot. Okay, so with Emancipate, what are they doing, or are you kind of at a halt? What is taking place right now when it comes to your case, or is it really now about trying to change policies, speaking to the officials? Like what is going on right now pertaining to your case?
It's more policy work, so policy reform. However, I can, share my story to really tell what's really going on. And like I said earlier, to really hold the elected, officials accountable, and to just see them like, how can they, I don't think that the system can be reworked like any type of way. But as a parent who was actually going through it, for a parent who is going through it, like right now, there's things that I can say like, oh yes, you need to increase visitation. You need to make sure that visitation is not only during the week, it needs to be on the weekends also. Like, why is it only 1 hour? Like, that's not even, like, what is that? Like, you only get to see your child for 1 hour a week. Like, that's no time at all. So advocating for things like that, but really advocating for the fact that the system should not exist because it does not work. It just does not work. And really looking into like pouring back into communities so that we can prevent the things that y'all are, that are happening, that may be because of neglect. You get what I'm saying? Like pouring back into community. Like, we didn't, if somebody was having a problem with their child back in the day, they wasn't calling nobody to come and take the children away. No, like the people of the community would take the child for that parent. Like, that's how it used to work. Like, why are
That's
we not?
right.
Like it wasn't like this outside agency who comes in and does all this stuff, acting like they're about to help your child, but then they take the child and put them somewhere else. Like, no, it didn't work like that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm a product of that myself. My grandmother, my mother, they basically raised me together, and everybody in Alexandria, I couldn't walk down the street so far without somebody dragging me in. Where are you going, boy? Your grandmother would kick your ass if you. Like, that's the kind of communities that we came up in. So, you're right. It's a deunification is what it is. It's a way to segment the community and thereby divide it, and now we're not as powerful.
That is so true.
Yeah. And when it comes to, for those that are watching, you really need to be careful before you even pick up the phone and make complaints. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, being in social work for so long, you have the parents that might be mad at the other parent, or you might have a neighbor who's pissed off because the kid keeps coming in their yard, or you might see a child walking into the school with the same clothes they had on yesterday, even though they're clean, but because they wore the same clothes yesterday, that's like this big deal that now the teacher's like, something's going on. So even though teachers, social workers, therapists, so forth are mandatory reporters, the hospital mandatory reporters, like that person at the hospital, they should have went through their medical records. It saw that the child had a condition before they even made a phone call. You know what I mean? That started this whole thing. Is there any action that you can do against the hospital for making that initial call?
I would have to revisit it, y'all, because when I got the medical records, I literally went through the whole 10,000 pages. I'm like, I done point out, I'm like, on page 997, it says this. On this page, I have like a whole like list. And I'm like, nobody would listen. I'm like, why are y'all not listening to what I'm saying? Like, it's right here. Judge Reinhardt would not allow it in court. She literally would not allow anything that was in support of me as a parent. She would not allow. So that's so.
She on the tape, yo.
Now I've been in family court, just to kind of more of the advocate for children. But so now she's out of that court. Is there, I know you said it went up to Superior Court, so there's basically no room for you to go back to court and be like, hey, new judge, can you look at my case? Is that not a thing? Is that something that you can't do? Like,
I don't know if it is, only because my rights have been terminated. So it's like my case, I don't even have like a case anymore or like any ties.
right.
But like I said too, there's nothing to go off of, kind of like, how do you even do this? And that's another reason too why I think that the Supreme Court like upheld the decision to not allow me to appeal it, because once if they would decided to like give me my rights,
everybody else would have been coming.
Precedent. Yeah, like it goes into precedent as a thing. Like, okay, now other attorneys could use my case in like to win their case. You get what I'm saying? It's just a lot of strategy, a lot of systematic things, a lot of corruption going on. So,
well, I'm not you, but think just listening to this whole thing, it's like at some point, somewhere, someone has to take accountability for what the county did. Somewhere, at some point, someone needs to take accountability, whether it's the North Carolina governor, whether it's that hospital administrator, whether it's the Superior Court. Someone at some point has to take accountability for what they've done to your family. Like somebody has to take accountability for it. And so, just trying to figure out what does that look like? And you have to be, I know that you're doing well and so forth, but as a mother, I can imagine that, and I could be wrong, but I can imagine that every day you're like, how can I get my kids back? How can I get my kids back? And that you're trying whatever it is that you're thinking you could do to get your kids back. So I don't know. I'm kind of throwing it out there. Can we go to the new judge? Can you bring your community of supports and be like, look, can you please reopen my case? Can you look at this? Just because your parental rights were taken from you, you're still a parent.
I say that all the time. Like, I don't care what y'all say.
Right. Just because they took your parental rights, you're still a parent. They can't take that away from you. And so it's like, you still have that. You are still a parent to your boys. You are still a parent who lost your children to the courts. And you're still a parent who has gone through something traumatic that I can't imagine you'll ever get over.
It does not get easier. It just gets harder as the time goes by.
Yeah, because that's like a person doing a life sentence who's innocent and they die in jail. Like every single day, you're thinking, why am I here? What can I do to get out of here? Knowing that I'm innocent. And unfortunately, people die every day in prison that are innocent. It's a fact. It's been said.
So the organization that was helping you, they can't help you find a new attorney who will help take on your case outside of your pawpaws?
It's just, I don't think that it's like they can't help me find. I just think it's just like, who's gonna do it? And like, it's just like, how do you do it? It's like, what do you do? Like, it's so many, it's so many things that I feel like would have to be like, not even rediscovered, just discovered. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I go about like doing this or bringing it to the judge?
And that lawsuit against them.
What you say?
I said, in that lawsuit against them.
No, really. Like, I don't think I haven't given up on any of it. I'm like, I know the ways of my God, however it's supposed to, work out and pan out. I leave it. That's where I have left it. I have left it with God himself alone. Like, because if I would be going crazy every single day. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, it's not easy. It's not just meant to. I'm pretty sure it's meant to destroy. That's what it's meant to do.
So, and I think I asked earlier, and please forgive me if you answered it and I missed it. have y'all done a formal, we're suing you for X amount because you destroyed my family? Has that taken place, or has it been more of, just the petitioning and the appealing and so forth? Have you all just said, we're going to sue Durham County courts or whatever for enormous amount because this is going to be a life thing that I'm going to have to deal with?
Yeah. So no, that hasn't came about yet. What is that? I did just do I think the United States Civil Rights Commission. I just did a complaint to the, I think it's called the Office of Civil Rights, I believe. It was like me and maybe 12 other cases.
Wow.
Just to really pinpoint, not in North Carolina, but just, or was it all about North Carolina? It may have all been about like North Carolina, but just to pinpoint so that they could look at what is happening in the state as a whole when it comes to people, like families being separated from their children. So that was just filed maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Good.
But nothing as far as like specifically as a lawsuit on Durham, but hope is not lost.
Yes. And continue talking about it, because you've done a lot of interviews and just speaking out about it, and it just amazes me that no one in Durham County is saying,
they don't want to own up to it. That's what it is. They don't want to.
I can't fathom as an elected official knowing this story and knowing how public it is, because your story is pretty public, all over the news, that no one's like, wait a minute, y'all not gonna do nothing about it? Well, I'm gonna do something about it. Like, like what's really going on here? Okay. So I know I asked earlier how the community can help you. So I'll switch to how can the community, what can the community do to help and change policies related to DSS and foster care and so forth? What are some things that you are sharing in the community for other parents so this doesn't happen to them, to protect themselves?
I would say, like I said earlier, it's really about the county commissioners and those elected who hold the power over social services. I would say, like going to those meetings, going to the town hall. And also, like I said, like you made a good point earlier about like people actually calling in to DSS, really understanding like the outcome of that. So that comes along with education, really educating yourself. And as a parent, just also to knowing your rights, as far as like if DSS does come to your door, like what are you supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know any of this and would have never known if I didn't experience it. So I would just say like really educating yourselves, and if you are currently like going through a case, to just never stop fighting. Like, do not let them people, because it's systematically stacked against you. It's meant for you to give up. It's meant for you to stop. That's what it's meant to do. And to just never give up, to never stop fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are my babies. So it's like, I'm going to never stop.
Right.
But it wasn't easy to not stop. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I totally understand.
It's unimaginable.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Toia, how old are you?
I'm 33.
33. Yeah. So this is a story that I'm glad that we were able to talk about and we were able to share. Just another platform to say like this is not right, that this is not something that you can continue to do to families, to children. Because your 6-year-old, when he was taken, he knew who mommy was. And it's like, you took me away from my mom. I haven't seen my mom in so many years. And he knows that mommy never did anything to hurt him. And so what kind of message are you sending to children about
That's another thing that Shamika Reinhardt did. I say one more thing, because so my oldest was having visits, and after the visits, the foster parents reported that he was acting out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm in court, like, I've been asking to get him therapy, because I'm like, he literally was with me every single day, like every single day. So y'all just took him away from me. Like, what is that doing to him? And if you care so much about the well-being of a child, care about him. So he was acting out, and I'm like, y'all, he was 3 at the time. I'm like, this is him responding to trauma. Like, he is understanding that he's y'all are taking him away from me. You know what I'm saying? So instead of her saying, okay, let's evaluate, that she allowed the foster parents to get a social worker, to get a therapist to do an evaluation, to say that okay, well, if he's not going to no longer be with his mom, and that the case is headed toward termination of parental rights, which it was not at the time, that was not even on my case plan, then we should stop his visits. She literally signed off for his visits to be stopped that day, just like out of the blue. So I didn't get this.
What year was that?
I'm sorry?
What year was that?
That was 2019.
So you didn't even have a chance to say anything to him?
No. The last thing he knows is that I was saying, Mansa, I'm going to be back. I will see you next week.
And ain't no telling what they done told that baby.
Exactly. And so I'm just like, that's another thing. I sit with that one, gets me every time, because I'm like, I told him I was coming back, and I've never come back yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I have to hold that, but I hold it as though like he is going to see me one day.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, she took that away from him. Like, forget me, just forget me. Like, you took that away from him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm, just again, being in the system myself, doing social work, I see the effects of children who are taken from their parents, and what happens as they are getting older and becoming teenagers and adults and stuff like that. But those questions in their mind, like, where's my mom? She said she was coming back. She never came back. Like, that's not your fault. But to not even give the child, and we'll put you aside for a second, right? We'll put you aside for 1 second. Not even to give the child a chance to say goodbye in itself is traumatic. So it's like, y'all have not only done a disservice to the family as a whole, but you have now traumatized this child who has this question in his head. And he's always going to have that question until he sees you again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully when he gets of age, because, children are very resourceful. I have a 3-year-old, and she knows how to scroll in my phone. So at some point he's going to be Googling Toia Potts.
I know.
He's going to have another question.
I often say, so when y'all put up this interview, somewhere put Mansa, put Keymont, put their names. Anything I've done, like recently, I just make sure that their names are in it, so they'll have a way to, like, if they search themselves, or they, like, whatever they search, like, it's a trail, so they'll be able to find it.
We will definitely do that. Please send me their spelling of their names and so forth, and we'll be sharing this interview regularly. I'm going to make a point of it, because this is something that is just unimaginable, but unfortunately it's a reality, and you're dealing with it every moment of the day. And I can't imagine what it's, and I'm saying your oldest because unfortunately your youngest didn't have those memories, nothing. And so your oldest is the one that's going to be telling the youngest, like, yeah, we have a mom, so forth and so on. Because I'm assuming that they're together. So he's going to be able to share that with him, like, yeah, we have a mom, and I don't know what happened, and so forth and so on. And so he's going to, he knows who you are. And so, yes, please send us the name so that we can include that in our captions and our reshares and stuff like that, because he knows who you are, and he will look for you. And someone's going to have to answer to him too.
I say that all the time. I said I don't know what the foster parents are telling him, but I'm like they're going to get older. They're going to be able to go online. They're going to be able to see all of this. Like, why would you keep me away from my parent? Like, why would you keep me away from my mom?
And when they see all that you have done, they will know that you love them and that you fought for them. But they're also going to understand that and I said this is usually the clean episode, but they're going to know that the system fucked them over and destroyed their family.
It really did.
And that's just not, the system has to understand that there are consequences when you break up families, and that's going to be on them. They're going to be paying for the insurance for you to get, for them to get therapy. They're going to be paying for everything as a result of them getting older. The system is still going to be paying for that in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah. Thank you, Toia, for coming on and sharing your story. I know that you do this on a regular, but I can't imagine that, even though you do it on a regular occasion, that it's easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
I have to prepare. I prepare for stuff like I have to prepare for this.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Very much so. We will do our part on our end. I'm actually going to send this interview to our video guy and ask him to do some stuff to it. We usually post the raw, but I feel like this deserves to have more done to it. So I'm going to initiate that, because one, I'll make sure that you get a copy of it, and then for us to be able to, reshare it. And I want to keep up with you and have you back maybe after the first of the year to kind of check in and see how you're doing, because I really think that this is something that should not be let go. Like, this is something that it needs to be followed, and anything that can be done community wise should be done, because this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable.
Let's do it. And if there's any like parents or anybody going through the same situation, they can also email me. I don't know if you can put my email on here.
We can.
My email is Toia, TOIA @emancipatenc.org.
Okay, so for those, if there's anyone that's watching or does watch, if you are in a similar situation and you are innocent of the charges against you and your children have been taken, Toia is saying that you can email her for her to be able to provide some supports to you. So let me make sure I have it right. It's TOIA @emancipatenc.org.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I just put it in the comments. So I definitely will share this. I will work on kind of souping this up so that it will, kind of have some promo behind it. I will work on that and make sure that you are notified when that is done, and what we can do, because again, we usually do post the raw, but I feel like this deserves to be more than just the raw, and we really need to put something more behind it. And I will continue to follow up with you. If you can email me your phone number, I would love to check on you myself personally to see how you're doing.
I will. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on and sharing, because I know that's not easy, but you're doing great work in the community, and I know that you're going to help more families, and eventually you're going to see your babies again.
I am.
You will. Queen or Gray, would you like to say anything before we let Miss Toia go?
You know, so
I
much
have
has
been
already been
quiet.
said.
Mhm.
I,
Go
I'm
ahead,
really,
Craig.
it just makes me mad. And so much has already been said. Yeah, I'm just, yeah, I don't just start my Mondays off like this, my weeks off being mad like this.
Yeah.
That's terrible, terrible.
Well, put that anger to good use. Keep sharing the stories. Keep sharing the story. Keep raising awareness about around the story and putting it out there. It's out there, but it's nothing wrong with another
Yep.
person putting it out there. Queen.
Listen, I have court tomorrow for my own custody case that's been going on for 4 years. So my headspace was so not ready for this. And Toya, my baby girl name is Journey. So
Oh,
I
that's right. That
definitely
is right.
would choose there. So
Oh my
I
God. I'm gonna get, can you
had to go off camera a few times because this is
how do I put my phone number in this thing?
it was
You want me to put your phone number publicly or you want me to put it
No,
privately?
I'm trying to put it to Queen. So
Okay.
no.
If you want to send it to
I see.
Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Wait, do you see it?
Let me see.
I see it.
Okay.
I see it. Mm-hmm.
So we can talk more. And I'm wishing you all the love, support, the energy tomorrow in court.
Listen, and I just said today, like it just amazes me how these judges have so much control over what come out of our fucking vagina. Excuse my language. Yeah. Like whew. So yeah, this was a doozy for me today.
I'm so sorry. But I'm sending you lots of love and lots of support tomorrow. Just text me so I can have your information too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll send it in our private chat too with the team, so that we're able to follow up with you as well, because this story is not going away on the private room. Like, you will hear from me again. I'm about to make myself some notes, and because this is something I can't imagine, and I want to make sure that we continue to support you.
Okay, thank you so much. And Queen, what county are you in? What county are you in?
I'm actually in Virginia. I'm not even in North Carolina. I'm just from North Carolina. So my mind over here twirling. Tiffany's like, who can I put this story in front of back home? Because it's just crazy.
We're gonna connect.
And like you hear, I have a black or had a black judge. So now we're going to appeals. This is like the 100th time we done been here, Tiffany. Like, I don't know how many times this. But yeah, it's just crazy how yeah. We'll talk offline.
I definitely understand. Okay, make sure you text me.
Okay. All right, Toia. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the private room and sharing your story. We will see you again. We will be praying for you. And anyone that is watching, please, please, please Google Toia Potts, Toia Potts, Potts, or Emancipate North Carolina. You will see all of the stories. Please, please share them. Please share them. Share this interview. Tag the county commissioners, the governor, all of that, because this is a story that needs to be and hopefully someone will stop being a punk someone will stop being a punk in North Carolina or in the county level and say, look, this is not right. Let's do something about it. So I wish that for you and for you to see your children again. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we will definitely follow up with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all for having me. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Bye.